Yeah, the title's a little clickbaity, but I'm just saying that he's partially wrong on one specific quote. Hi, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Famously, Gary Gygax is known to have said that if you understand the rules, you don't really need the books, and that's the big secret that you don't want the game masters out there to realize. And as I said at the very beginning of this, it's partially true. I mean, yeah, if you have full understanding of all the rules mechanics, then you don't need the books. You can build your own character creation, you can build your own settings, you can build your own monsters, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, needing to understand the rules in the first place will probably require you to at least need a copy of rule books. Now, certain companies could get themselves to get a few more sales by spreading their core rules across multiple books that you have to have and use in tandem to each other. The vast bulk of role-playing games out there will generally cram all the basic stuff you need to understand and operate a game using, their game system in the one main book. Gary Gygax's quote probably applies more to source books than core rule books. Once you understand the rules and understand how to build NPCs and build encounters and design your own settings, the source books don't really have a whole lot to offer you aside from just simple practical things like helping save you time. It takes a lot of time to come up with a good setting. It takes a lot of time to come up with a good adventure. It takes a lot of time to come up with NPCs and monsters, and all the way from your big bad guy all the way down to the little tiny henchmen, even coming up with stats for stuff like giant rats. If somebody's already done it for you, it means it's a resource that you can grab and throw into play a lot quicker without having to spend a bunch of time prior to the game session developing these things and having them ready so you understand how they work. Improvising is obviously a key that all game masters have to learn how to use, but if you over-rely on it, we come to the other reason why the books actually do matter somewhat, and that is they are the basis for your authority as a game master. With no books in play at all, none at all. You're just how the D20 system works. You're going to get some friends over, and you're going to play D&D without using any rule books whatsoever. Handwritten character sheets, everything. If your other players understand the rules as equally to you, why is there a hierarchy? What does the game master's authority come from? Well, it's derived from the fact that the rule book says that as the game master, you have the final authority. It's a mental trick. It's not actually real. Your players at any time can rebel against you and argue against any decision you do and try to shoot you down and use the rules against you if they so choose. If it weren't for this kind of weird human tick, where because something has actually been written down saying here's how this works and here's who's in charge, people are just slightly more subconsciously inclined to obey that, to follow along with that, to accept that authority and that hierarchy, because you're all in this unspoken agreement to participate in the game, and this is how the game lays things out. If you were to completely remove all books from it and you're just entirely just going off your head, there's really nothing stopping a creative and intelligent player in your group to counteract that. And obviously, there are games out there that try to do stuff like co-DMing, and good luck to the people who want to be into that. That's not me. I always try to fall back on a philosophy of there's 8 billion people on this planet, so there's room for all sorts of variation without us having to freak out over it. But just from my point of view, I do think there is a purpose to having a game master who bottlenecks the events and the narrative of the game as it goes on. Since they do not have a personal character of their own, they can be more detached to what is happening and be a fair arbiter, and that your ultimate goal as a game master is not to tell stories, not to show off, not to be a genius, not to flex on how much you understand the rules or how many books you have. It is to be a fair arbiter of events. That's part of why the dice is there. The dice forces you, hypothetically, unless you're cheating and not actually using what the dice rolls are telling you to use in terms of success and fail rates for your NPCs. I don't know. I feel like it's self-explanatory. It's much akin to the reason why, in courts you have to put your hand on a Bible. It is because it is, you're acknowledging the authority that you're submitting to. And obviously, while a game is just a thing that, for kids, for people, it's fairly casual. And yet, because one person does have to be kind of there running it all and being a fair judge, you need to have your own, Bible of sorts for the players to symbolically place their hands upon and acknowledge that they are submitting to the hierarchy that the game is generating. So everything flows properly, and you have slightly less arguments. We don't need role-playing games at all to role-play. You can just make something up in your head as a role you want to play, and you can just argue things out with other people. From what I understand, that's how a lot of think tank role-playing game scenarios operate. It's not like they're whipping out a Dungeon Master's Guide and all that kind of stuff when they're trying to, play through some sort of global disaster scenario, and everyone's trying to pretend like how they would, send out FEMA resources to Florida and stuff like that. That's not that kind of role-playing. A role-playing game denotes that it has structure, it has parameters, and that is what the books provide. And because of the fact that it's written down and there's a physical object, that even if you're using homebrew rules, the fact that they are derived from something that is a quote-unquote official rule source lends them a validity that they wouldn't have. If you're just running the game entirely off of your head without any rule books, then you can't really homebrew. There is no such thing as homebrew because there's no contrast between homebrew rule and official ruling in that circumstance. It's just one person just kind of deciding on their own that they're going to dictate to everyone else at their table what's going on. The book provides the structure that makes it a game. That gives us all the tools that help kind of detach us a little bit. So for a little while, we're not ourselves. I'm not me. You're not Gary and Jerry and Barry. You are players. I am game master. We are inhabiting roles, and within that role, we take on other roles. It's a fucking weird hobby, isn't it? Anyway, though, just since even I myself had brought it up in a previous video, and I even saw someone in the comments be like, "What? You're right. I don't need these books. Thanks." Well, yeah, that's partially true. You don't really need them technically. They do have their uses beyond as just going through. They give you the basis for your authority to run the game. They provide the structure and the parameters and the limitations that make it a game and not just some, free flow stream of consciousness between multiple people. And they help save you some time. Really, the only thing that Gary Gygax quote applies to is source books. They are the ones that you need the least, because unless you have a company that is intentionally spreading their rules across multiple books, so you have to have them all in order to be able to understand the entire system, then all you need is just that core rule book. And so, speaking of core rule books, you can check out my core rule book on Amazon or DriveThruRPG, and check out all the various setting source books and source books for those settings I have too, that you really desperately need in your life. And until next time, stay waspinated.